What if the very signs you've spent years hiding are not weaknesses, but proof that you've survived the kind of storms most people could never endure? What if the pain that once broke you is now the very mark of your strength? Some wounds don't bleed. Some screams never make a sound. And yet, if you're here listening, I know this truth: you've carried more than most will ever know. You walk through the world with eyes that have seen too much, with a heart that has learned the weight of silence, with a spirit that bends but refuses to shatter. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But what happens when even knowing who you are feels impossible beneath the ruins of what you've survived? This video will reveal 13 powerful signs that you are someone who has endured deep suffering. Signs that the world often mislabels, misunderstands, or ignores, but which actually point to your depth, your resilience, and your extraordinary humanity. Stay with me until the very end, because as you recognize these signs in yourself, you will also uncover the hidden wisdom they carry, and why Jung believed suffering, when faced, can be the birthplace of transformation. Because maybe you've been told you're too sensitive, too distant, too independent, too much. But here's the truth: those are not flaws. They are survival strategies. And if you've ever wondered why love feels dangerous, why peace feels fleeting, or why you carry empathy like a burden, you are not alone. This is your story. So if something inside you already feels this message is meant for you, don't leave. Watch until the end. And before we begin, I want to invite you, if these words resonate, to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Not just for me but for you. Because if this speaks to your soul, it means you are ready for more. More healing, more truth, more freedom. Your scars are not your shame. They are your sacred proof. And today we'll uncover why. Let's begin with the first truth. Suffering often teaches you to wear masks. From the outside, people may call you strong, resilient, even unshakable. They admire your composure, your ability to hold everything together. But they don't see the nights you collapse in silence. They don't hear the prayers whispered into your pillow or the tears you swallow in your car before walking into work. They see the mask. They applaud the performance. But they don't know that strength for you was never a choice, it was survival. Jung spoke of the persona, the social mask we wear to face the world. And for those who have endured deep suffering, that mask becomes almost impossible to remove. It hides the exhaustion behind your smile, the weight behind your eyes, the fatigue in your bones. The tragedy is that people forget you are still human underneath. They lean on your resilience but rarely ask what it costs you to hold them up. And so you've learned to carry more than your share. You became hyper-independent, not because you wanted to prove yourself, but because you had no other option. The world taught you that vulnerability equals danger, that asking for help means risking disappointment, abandonment, or betrayal. So you decided it was safer to be the one who provides than the one who needs. But beneath that armor lies a truth. No one was born to carry life alone. The mask may protect you, but it also suffocates you. It keeps you from the softness you secretly crave, from the relief of being held instead of always holding. This is one of the clearest signs of deep suffering. You know how to endure, but you've forgotten how to rest. And maybe as you hear this, something inside you stirs. Because you know exactly how heavy it feels to smile when you're breaking, to say, "I'm fine," when you're anything but. You recognize yourself in this first sign, the mask of strength that hides a soul starving for release. The second sign is hidden in your sensitivity. You don't just notice people, you feel them. Their moods, their fears, their unspoken grief. You walk into a room and instantly sense the tension behind the laughter, the sadness hiding in someone's silence. This radar of empathy didn't appear by accident. It was born from survival. Maybe in childhood, you learned to scan the environment for danger, to anticipate the storm before it broke, to read the slightest shifts in tone or body language because your safety depended on it. You became the peacekeeper, the emotional translator, the anchor in a home that was always at risk of capsizing. And though that gift of empathy is powerful, it often comes with a cost. You give even when you are empty. You hold space for everyone else's pain even when your own wounds are still bleeding. Carl Jung spoke of projection, the way we unconsciously try to heal ourselves by seeing in others what we have not yet faced in ourselves. And that is often what happens with over-empathy. You confuse love with usefulness. You believe your worth is earned by giving more than anyone asked for. But that isn't love. That's survival disguised as selflessness. The world may call you compassionate, and yes, you are. But deep down you know the truth. Sometimes you give until you disappear. And when no one needs you, you feel invisible, lost, like love can only be earned through sacrifice. This is the heartbreak of suffering. It teaches you to confuse survival strategies with identity. If these words touch a place you've kept hidden, then pause here and breathe. Because you are not alone. And if this resonates, I want to invite you again. Subscribe and share your experience below. Not because I need it, but because your voice matters. Your story may be the light someone else is searching for right now. The third sign is this: love feels dangerous. Even when kindness arrives, even when someone stays, you find yourself bracing for the pain you believe is inevitable. You analyze every silence, every delayed text, every subtle change in tone. Not because you don't want love, but because you feel too much. Your nervous system has been trained by loss, by betrayal, by abandonment. Intimacy, instead of feeling safe, triggers alarms. Affection reactivates memories you never asked for. So instead of building bridges, you build walls. You push people away before they can leave you. You say you're fine alone, that you don't need anyone, but deep down you know the truth. You long for connection, yet fear it at the same time. Jung reminded us that the unconscious drives our behavior until we make it conscious. And here lies the paradox. You are not cold, you are not distant, you are protected. You have trained yourself to survive love as if it were a battlefield. But the war is over, and the armor that once kept you alive is now keeping you from the intimacy you crave. This is not weakness. It is not failure. It is the mark of someone who has endured deep suffering and survived it by fortifying their heart. But survival is not the same as living. And somewhere inside you know this. Because the part of you that flinches at love is also the part of you still longing for it. So if you've ever pushed someone away only to regret it later, or if you've convinced yourself you're better off alone, understand this: you're not broken. You're simply carrying the memory of pain. And healing means slowly, gently, learning to trust that not every story ends the same way. The fourth sign is exhaustion that no rest can touch. To the world, you are resilient, reliable, the one who gets things done. But when the lights go out and silence surrounds you, there's a weight in your chest that no amount of sleep can ease. It isn't just physical fatigue, it's soul-deep weariness. That's because strength has become your mask. You've carried responsibilities no one saw, endured storms no one noticed, and smiled through pain that would have broken others. People celebrate your endurance, but they don't realize endurance came with a price. You forgot what it feels like to lay your burdens down. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or hide. For many who have suffered, their exhaustion is part of that shadow. They deny it, they push past it, they pretend it isn't there. But your body remembers. Your spirit remembers. And it whispers through the heaviness you carry each day. This unshakable tiredness is not laziness, not weakness. It is the echo of survival mode. Because when you're always bracing for collapse, you never truly rest. Even when you sleep, part of you stays awake, scanning for danger, preparing for loss. That is why vacations don't fix it, why weekends feel too short, why no break is ever enough. If this feels familiar, understand this: your exhaustion is not a flaw. It is evidence of how much you've endured. It's your body's way of saying, I've been carrying the world too long. And healing begins not with more doing, but with giving yourself permission to finally stop pretending that strength means never resting. The fifth sign is the quiet breakdown. People rarely see you fall apart. You've trained yourself to collapse in private, to cry in the shower, to let the tears fall only in the dark of your car, or in the silence of your bedroom when the world is asleep. To everyone else you are composed. But behind closed doors, the weight breaks you in ways no one would ever guess. This is the paradox of suffering. The world calls you strong, but you know strong is just another word for suffering silently. You've learned to protect others from your pain because somewhere along the way, you believed your truth was too heavy to be held. And so you carry it alone. Carl Jung wrote about the persona, the mask we wear to survive in society. But what happens when the mask becomes your identity? When you forget that there is a self beneath it. That is where many who have endured suffering find themselves. They confuse performance with reality. They smile when they're breaking, they comfort others while they themselves ache. And yet this too is a sign. Because your ability to hold yourself together in public, while unraveling in private, reveals just how much you've endured. It shows your depth, your discipline, your refusal to collapse completely, even when you're crumbling inside. But here's the truth: hiding your breakdowns doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've never been given the safety to fall apart openly. And healing begins the moment you allow yourself to be real, to admit you're not okay, to let someone else see the cracks. Because those cracks aren't shameful. They're the openings where the light begins to enter. The sixth sign is hyperindependence. On the surface, it looks like confidence, like strength, like you can handle anything. You don't ask for help. You don't lean on others. You'd rather break in silence than risk being seen as a burden. People admire you for it, they call you self-sufficient, unstoppable. But the truth is far more complex. Hyperindependence isn't born from strength. It's born from survival. At some point, life taught you that needing others was dangerous, that leaning on someone meant risking disappointment, rejection, or betrayal. And so you built your own shelter. You became your own protector. You decided that depending on no one was safer than risking the pain of being abandoned again. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole. But hyper-independence is not wholeness. It is fragmentation. It is choosing safety over intimacy, solitude over vulnerability. And while it kept you alive, it also left you starving for connection. If you recognize yourself here, know this: there is nothing wrong with being capable. But when capability becomes armor, it also becomes a cage. You were never meant to carry the world alone. True strength isn't the refusal to need anyone, it's the courage to admit you do. And maybe this is the hardest truth to accept. Independence has protected you, but it has also isolated you. Healing will mean slowly learning that it is safe to ask, safe to receive, safe to let others see you in your rawness. Because real love isn't earned by how much you endure alone. It is built in the space where two souls meet without masks, without walls. So if this sign resonates, I invite you, pause for a moment. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and leave a comment sharing your experience. Because your story might be the reminder someone else needs. That independence is powerful, but connection is essential. The seventh sign is overgiving. You pour into others even when your own cup is empty. You're the one who listens late into the night, who shows up when others call, who gives more than anyone ever asked for. To the world it looks like kindness, generosity, even selflessness. But beneath the surface lies a deeper truth. You've tied your worth to being useful. When you've suffered deeply, love often gets confused with sacrifice. You believe that if you keep giving, keep helping, keep fixing, then maybe, just maybe, you'll finally be chosen, finally be loved, finally be safe. But this is not love. This is a survival strategy dressed as virtue. Carl Jung spoke of projection, the way we seek in others what we can't yet face in ourselves. Overgiving is often a disguised longing to be seen, to be valued, to be cared for in the same way you care for others. But the more you give without boundaries, the more invisible you feel. And when no one notices your exhaustion, it only reinforces the belief that you must earn love by emptying yourself. This cycle is devastating because while you're saving everyone else, you're slowly disappearing from your own life. Your needs go unmet, your soul remains hungry, your heart continues aching for the care you so freely give away. Here lies the painful truth: you were never meant to earn love. You were meant to receive it simply for being. Overgiving may have been your shield, but it's also been your cage. And healing begins when you learn to give from fullness, not from emptiness, when you allow reciprocity instead of martyrdom. And if this feels uncomfortably true, take a breath. Because the first step out of overgiving is realizing that your value was never meant to be measured by how much you sacrifice. The eighth sign is a fear of joy. You find yourself hesitating when good things happen. A compliment feels suspicious. A new opportunity feels temporary. Even love, when it finally appears, feels like a trap waiting to collapse. Instead of resting in joy, you brace for the fall. This is the silent residue of suffering. When life has taken too much from you, happiness feels unsafe. Your nervous system expects disaster, so when peace arrives, you hold it at arm's length. You tell yourself, this won't last. Something always goes wrong. And so you never let joy sink in fully, never allow yourself to believe that good things can stay. Carl Jung said that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is one of those patterns. The unconscious memory of loss tells you joy is fleeting, that hope is dangerous, that attachment equals heartbreak. So even when the moment is beautiful, you are already rehearsing how to survive when it ends. But here's the paradox. Your fear of joy doesn't mean you don't want it. It means you want it so deeply that losing it feels unbearable. That's why you push it away, why you guard your heart, why you hesitate before fully smiling. It isn't because you're broken. It's because you remember the pain of when joy was stolen before. The healing, then, is not about forcing happiness. It's about learning to let small joys in without apology. To let yourself feel warmth without bracing for fire. To sip on beauty like it belongs to you because it does. If this resonates, know this: joy doesn't mean forgetting your pain. It means daring to believe you're worthy of something beyond it. And that belief, however fragile, is the seed of your freedom. The ninth sign is caution and trust. For most people, trust is a natural exchange. It's given until it's broken. But for you, it works in reverse. Your default is caution. You hesitate before believing someone's words, you second-guess their intentions, you wait for proof before you let yourself exhale. And though others might call this guarded or suspicious, it is in fact the imprint of survival. When you've endured betrayal, abandonment, or neglect, your body learns to protect itself. Trust becomes a risk, not a given. And so you walk through relationships with one eye open, always alert to the moment when things might shift. It isn't that you don't want to trust, it's that you've learned the cost of trusting too quickly. Carl Jung spoke often of the unconscious wounds that shape us, and trust is one of them. You may tell yourself you're fine alone, but the truth is you long for connection. Still, you measure every step because deep inside is the memory of what it felt like when trust shattered. This is not paranoia. This is the wisdom of someone who has endured. The danger lies only when the caution becomes a prison, when no one is allowed close enough to prove they are different. Healing here requires a gentle shift, to understand that while not everyone can be trusted, not everyone will betray you. And when the right person does arrive, someone consistent, someone steady, you'll recognize them not because they rush through your walls but because they respect them. They will wait. They will show you again and again that trust doesn't always lead to pain. And in that patience, your heart may finally remember what it feels like to rest. The 10th sign is silence that speaks. You've learned to hold your tongue, to think twice before speaking, to measure the weight of every word. This silence isn't emptiness, it's full of everything you've never been able to say. It carries the grief no one asked about, the anger you were told to suppress, the truths that felt too dangerous to reveal. People may mistake your silence for coldness, but Jung would call it depth. You've endured so much that you understand words carry consequences, and so you do not waste them. Your pauses are thoughtful. Your hesitations are heavy. And often you find yourself listening more than speaking, not because you have nothing to say but because you've carried too much to throw words carelessly into the air. This silence is also protective. It shields you from judgment, from rejection, from the risk of vulnerability. But it also sets you apart. People sense there's more inside you than you reveal, and they are drawn to it even if they don't understand why. And here's the truth, your silence is a language. It tells stories without sound. It makes others lean in. It holds a kind of gravity that only those who have suffered can carry. But silence can also isolate you if it becomes your only form of expression. Healing means slowly finding safe spaces where your words can exist without fear, where silence becomes a choice, not a cage. So when you hesitate before speaking, know this: your silence is not emptiness. It is evidence of everything you've survived in a world that didn't always listen. The 11th sign is craving solitude. Unlike loneliness, solitude feels like oxygen. It is where you find safety, where your body finally exhales, where you don't have to perform or pretend. After enduring suffering, solitude becomes sacred because it is the only place you are fully free. People may call you distant, introverted, or withdrawn. But solitude isn't about avoiding people, it's about recovering from them. When you've spent years absorbing the emotions of others, carrying their storms, and translating their silences, solitude is the only place you can return to yourself. Carl Jung believed individuation required solitude, the quiet space where the self can emerge without distraction. And for you, this space isn't just helpful, it's necessary. It is in solitude that you hear your own voice again, that you reclaim your boundaries, that you remember who you are beneath the masks. But here lies the paradox. While solitude heals, it can also harden. If you retreat too long, you risk forgetting how to return. If isolation becomes your refuge, you may convince yourself it's all you deserve. And so the work of healing is not to abandon solitude, but to balance it, to learn that solitude is a home, not a prison. So if you crave silence, don't apologize for it. Your solitude is not weakness, it is wisdom. And it is one of the clearest signs that you've endured deeply and are learning how to find yourself again. And if this resonates, pause. Subscribe and share your truth in the comments. Not because it's easy, but because your words may remind someone else they are not alone in their need for sacred solitude. The 12th sign is the sacred attention to small things. When you've suffered, your eyes learn to catch beauty in the details others overlook. A cup of coffee in the stillness of morning. The way sunlight filters through leaves. A stranger's soft smile in passing. These small moments become anchors, proof that life holds sweetness even in the middle of sorrow. Jung described individuation as finding meaning in the ordinary. And that is exactly what suffering carves into you. You no longer chase grand displays of happiness. Instead, you savor the subtle, the fleeting, the quiet miracles, because you know how quickly they can vanish. This attention to detail is not just appreciation, it's survival. When despair threatens to swallow you, you cling to these fragments of beauty, and they remind you that not everything is broken, not everything is lost. The world might call it sensitivity, but it is more than that. It is resilience. It is the proof that even after the darkest nights, some part of you still searches for light. And that search itself is a sign of healing. If you've ever found tears in your eyes at something small and ordinary, understand this. It isn't weakness. It's your soul reminding you it can still feel joy, however fragile, however fleeting. And that is a gift most will never understand. The 13th and final sign is transformation itself. You are not who pain tried to make you. You are who you became in spite of it. That is the essence of deep suffering. It doesn't just scar you, it shapes you. And if you've endured, you've also evolved. Carl Jung called this process alchemy, the transformation of lead into gold. Your suffering was the lead, heavy, dense, impossible to carry. But your choice to face it, to feel it, to keep walking through it, that was the fire. And the gold is who you are now. You may not even see it clearly, but others do. They notice the depth in your silence, the wisdom in your presence, the compassion in your eyes. You shift the temperature of a room simply by being in it. You hold space in ways few people can. Because you've walked through pain and refused to let it end you. This is the ultimate sign. Not that you avoided suffering, but that you survived it and emerged with something rare. You are more than your scars. You are the wisdom, the depth, the resilience they created. And if you're hearing this now, let me say it clearly, you have endured deeply, but you have not been destroyed. You are not broken. You are becoming whole. And that, more than anything, is the sign that your suffering has turned into strength. So now we've uncovered the 13 signs of deep suffering, but here's the truth most people overlook. These signs are not the end of your story, they are the beginning. They are not the marks of weakness, but the fingerprints of survival, the evidence that you have walked through fire and emerged with a soul that still longs for light. Carl Jung wrote that, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Your suffering has been the doorway into a deeper awareness of yourself. It has stripped away illusions, burned off the masks, revealed the raw truth of who you are beneath the performance. And while that process hurt, while it left scars, it also awakened something sacred inside you. The ability to feel, to perceive, to understand life at a depth most people will never touch. This is why others are drawn to you without knowing why. They sense the gravity in your presence, the unspoken stories in your silence. They may call you strong, wise, or resilient, but those words don't capture the truth. What they are really sensing is that you are someone who has suffered, and survived. But survival was never meant to be your only story. Yes, you endured. Yes, you adapted. But now, the invitation is to step beyond endurance into freedom. To lay down the armor, to let yourself rest, to choose connection without fear. Healing is not erasing your past. It is reclaiming your future. And maybe this is the most powerful truth of all. The pain that once threatened to destroy you is now the very ground on which you rise. Not as the person you were before, but as the person you were always meant to become. Think about this. Most people spend their lives running from pain, numbing it, distracting themselves from it, denying it. But you, whether by choice or by force, have faced it. You sat with the ache, the silence, the nights when hope felt impossible. And because of that, you carry something rare. You carry depth. Jung often described individuation as the process of becoming whole, of integrating all parts of ourselves, even the broken ones. For those who have endured deep suffering, this process begins earlier, sharper, and more painfully. But it also gives you a kind of vision. You notice what others miss. You feel what others deny. You recognize the wounds hidden beneath someone else's smile because you've carried the same weight behind your own. This is why your presence changes rooms. Without saying a word, you make others feel seen. Without trying, you bring a kind of stillness that makes people soften, open, confess. They don't even know why, but it's because your soul recognizes their pain, and your silence gives them permission to let it out. That, in itself, is a gift born from suffering. A gift you didn't ask for, but one that can heal others in ways you'll never fully realize. But here is the challenge: do not forget to heal yourself as well. Because while you hold space for everyone else, you must also create space for your own heart, your own needs, your own fragile humanity. The truth is, your suffering has already changed you. But healing is what will free you. And freedom means this: no longer letting your pain decide your worth, your choices, your relationships, or your joy. Freedom means daring to believe that you deserve peace, not someday, not after proving yourself, but now. The journey of healing is not about erasing what happened to you. It's about reclaiming what suffering tried to take. Jung wrote that the shadow, those hidden, painful parts of us, must be integrated, not destroyed. And that's what you are learning to do. To stop running from your pain and instead to hold it in your hands, to say, "This shaped me, but it does not define me." When you begin to see your scars this way, they stop being reminders of weakness and become symbols of resilience. Each one tells a story of survival, of nights you thought you wouldn't make it but did. Each one carries proof that even in the darkest hours, some part of you refused to give up. And here's the most liberating truth. You don't have to fix everything to be worthy of love, of rest, of joy. You don't have to earn peace by proving your strength. Peace is your birthright. Softness is your inheritance. And healing is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. So when the memories resurface, when the old fears whisper, when your body tenses at the thought of trusting again, pause. Breathe. Remember, you are no longer the person who first endured that pain. You are wiser now, stronger, more aware. And while the wound may still ache, it no longer rules you. This is what Jung called individuation, the sacred work of becoming fully yourself. And suffering, as brutal as it was, has opened the door to this path. You didn't choose the pain, but you can choose what it means now. You can let it harden you or you can let it refine you. And in that choice lies your freedom. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And for those who have endured deep suffering, this is the greatest challenge. Because accepting yourself means facing not only your light but your darkness. The moments you broke, the mistakes you made, the ways you survived that you're not proud of. But here's the truth, none of that makes you less. In fact, it makes you real. The nights you cried alone, the times you pushed people away, the days you doubted your own worth. Those moments don't define your weakness. They reveal your humanity. And humanity is what connects us all. Healing doesn't mean erasing the shadow. It means walking with it. It means no longer hiding from your triggers, no longer apologizing for your scars, no longer pretending to be invincible. It means saying, yes, I've suffered. Yes, I've been broken. But I am still here. And that is enough. And maybe for the first time, you realize you don't have to keep fighting yourself. You don't have to keep proving your strength by carrying the heaviest loads. You can set them down. You can breathe. You can allow yourself to be loved, not because you're perfect, but because you're human. This is the climax of transformation. When you stop seeing suffering as your identity and begin to see it as your teacher. When you understand that the very experiences you thought ruined you have in fact revealed the depth of your soul. And in that revelation you finally come home to yourself. Think about this. What if your suffering was never meant to shrink you but to awaken you? What if the pain that once silenced you was actually the beginning of your voice? This is the paradox of endurance. While suffering tried to bury you, it also revealed your resilience. Jung called this the alchemical process of the psyche, turning lead into gold. The heaviness of your trauma, the unbearable weight of what you endured, that was the lead. And your decision, again and again, to keep breathing, to keep showing up, to keep hoping even when hope felt impossible, that was the fire. The gold is who you are now, deeper, wiser, more compassionate, more alive than you might realize. And here's what makes you extraordinary. Not that you avoided suffering, but that you allowed it to shape you without destroying you. You carry scars, yes, but you also carry vision. You notice what others ignore. You feel what others numb. You see life with eyes sharpened by loss, but softened by survival. That duality is rare. That duality is sacred. So when you doubt yourself, remember, the very traits you once labeled as flaws, your sensitivity, your caution, your silence, are the very signs of your transformation. They are not chains. They are proof. Proof that you walked through hell and came back carrying water. Proof that you are not just alive but awake. And maybe that's the true gift of deep suffering. It doesn't just make you stronger. It makes you real. It strips away everything false and leaves you with the essence of who you truly are. And that essence is enough. The beauty of transformation is that it doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It comes quietly, almost unnoticed, like a slow dawn. One day you realize you're no longer reacting the way you used to. You no longer collapse under the weight of a memory. You no longer apologize for your sensitivity. That shift, that gentle, steady awakening, is the clearest sign that suffering has turned into wisdom. Carl Jung believed that true healing begins the moment we stop identifying with our wounds. And maybe that's where you are now. You've spent years carrying your pain as proof of who you are. But you are more than the pain. You are the one who lived through it, the one who chose to rise in spite of it. This is why people feel something in you they can't explain. They may not know your story, but they feel its weight, its depth, its quiet strength. You don't need to broadcast your survival. It radiates from you in ways you can't fake. And that presence, it changes things. It changes rooms, relationships, conversations. Because people sense they are in the company of someone who has walked through shadows and still carries light. But don't mistake this presence as just for others. It is for you too. You are allowed to rest in the person you've become. You are allowed to stop chasing perfection, stop proving your worth, stop running from your reflection. Because the reflection you see is not broken. It is whole, layered, alive. And if no one has told you this yet, you don't have to wait for tomorrow to live differently. You can begin now. Not by forgetting your suffering, but by honoring it as the soil from which your strength grew. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And if you've endured deep suffering, this is your privilege now, to step into a self no longer shaped only by wounds but by wisdom. You see, pain doesn't disappear. Memories remain. Scars don't vanish. But healing doesn't mean erasing, it means integrating. It means holding your suffering as part of your story without letting it decide the ending. It means saying, yes, this happened. Yes, it marked me. But it does not define the limits of who I can be. And maybe that's the greatest revelation. You no longer need to go back to who you were before the pain. That version of you doesn't exist anymore. But what has emerged is even more authentic, even more grounded, even more alive. You are not returning, you are becoming. This becoming is not dramatic. It unfolds in small choices, choosing to rest when your body begs for it, choosing to trust a little more than yesterday, choosing to savor the softness of a sunrise without bracing for the storm. These are the revolutions hidden in the ordinary. And here lies the power. While others chase loud victories, your quiet transformation speaks louder. Because strength that has suffered is different. It is softer, deeper, unshakable. It doesn't scream for attention, it simply radiates. So if you still wonder whether your suffering meant anything, let this be your answer. It did. Mattered. It shaped you into someone who can carry light into dark places. Someone who can sit with pain and still choose compassion. Someone who proves, simply by existing, that survival is sacred. Here, at this stage of your journey, something shifts. You begin to see your suffering not as an enemy but as a teacher. You begin to thank the scars, not for what they cost but for what they revealed. And you realize that while pain changed you, it didn't steal your essence. It refined it. Carl Jung described this as individuation, the alchemy of becoming whole. And the signs of your suffering, once sources of shame, now become proof of this transformation. Your silence becomes wisdom. Your empathy becomes power. Your scars become maps for others still lost in their own darkness. But there's one more truth: healing doesn't mean you'll never ache again. It means the ache no longer rules you. It means you can feel pain without drowning in it. It means you can welcome love without running from it. It means you can trust that even if joy feels fragile, it is still yours to hold. And maybe that is the secret few talk about. Real healing is not glamorous. It doesn't look like perfection. It looks like living fully even with scars. It looks like laughing even when your heart remembers loss. It looks like crying without shame, resting without guilt, speaking without fear. So if you've ever doubted your progress, if you've ever thought, I'm still hurting, maybe I'm not healed yet, hear this. Healing isn't about erasing hurt. It's about walking with it, softer, freer, lighter, until it no longer defines you. And you, my friend, are already walking. This is where the story turns into invitation. If you've seen yourself in these signs, if you've felt the resonance of these words in your chest, then you already know. Your suffering has not been wasted. It has been shaping you quietly, persistently into someone rare. You are not ordinary. You are not fragile. You are not broken. You are someone who has carried storms and still kept your soul intact. You are someone who has learned to see through masks, to sense what others cannot, to hold silence that speaks louder than words. And if this video has touched you, if it has reminded you that your pain has meaning, then I invite you, subscribe, share your reflections, let your story be heard. Not because I need your voice, but because the world does. Because somewhere out there, someone is drowning in the silence you've already survived. And your truth might be the lifeline they are searching for. Jung once said, "Only the wounded physician heals." That is you now, not because you sought it, but because life carved it into you. Your suffering has made you a healer, a mirror, a reminder that it is possible to endure and still choose love. So let this be your declaration: I am not my wounds. I'm not my mask. I'm not my fear. I am the soul that survived and the one that now chooses to live. And so we arrive at the final reflection. What do all these signs point to? They point to this undeniable truth: suffering did not destroy you. It initiated you. It woke you up. It stripped away the illusions and showed you the rarest gift of all, your authentic self. This is your quiet revolution. Not a performance, not perfection, but presence. The way you walk into a room with gravity. The way you hold another's pain with compassion. The way you allow yourself slowly to trust, to rest, to smile without bracing for loss. That is the mark of someone who has endured and transformed. That is the sign that your suffering has already become wisdom. And as we close, I want to leave you with this thought. Your pain may have written the first chapters of your life, but it does not have to write the last. You hold the pen now. You get to decide what meaning your scars carry. You get to choose whether they remain wounds or become maps. So rise. Not as someone defined by suffering, but as someone shaped by it. Not as someone broken, but as someone whole. Not as someone invisible, but as someone luminous. Because you are not just a survivor. You are a living testament that deep suffering can give birth to deep beauty. And that beauty, your beauty, is the light the world needs now.